this show we got in store. You know why? Because it's on drugs. I mean, the topic is about drugs. I can't say if the panelists are all on drugs, but let's just say the dogs hired by security to sniff for contraband started humping Kat's book bag and then passed out from a contact high. R.I.P. dogs. But first, Harris Faulkner is back. I wonder what she could be happy about.
I'm happy about this because just 15 minutes ago, the tattoo that I had of Greg Gutfeld on my thigh, like lower thigh, like by my knee, by my knee, it's gone.
Wow.
I saw it. Bye, Greg.
You think I would not include that in the show, Harris?
My husband now has to see that twice.
Yes, well, at least you didn't get the tattoo. You know who did get the tattoo? Stuart Varney, and he's not complaining. All right. Also, Brian Kilmeade is back. Obviously somebody canceled. Yeah, we tried everybody, including the janitor with the lazy eye. But, and I'm very excited. We got a first-time guest, Dr. Carl Hart. Carl is a professor of psychology at Columbia. Relax, Kat, he doesn't do outpatients. But, Dr. Hart, where's that book? Dr. Hart wrote one of the bravest books you're gonna find, Drug Use for Grown-Ups. Oh, there it is. That was my major at Berkeley. I still can't believe he didn't ask me to write the foreword. So the book is about legalizing drugs. It might piss some of you off, but that's what the drugs are for. But the book isn't just about legalizing the easy ones like pot or mushrooms or the window cleaner that Kat mixes with Gatorade. But heroin. Now, this is when people say, no, not heroin. Look what that drug does. The lost souls on the streets, haunting city corners like ghostly zombies, living for a fix. Well, it's true. We indeed have problems. But here's the deal. That's happening while the drugs are illegal. Yet they're easier to get than COVID. Even my cat is dealing drugs. Could have been more subtle. Yep, while we pour billions into a drug war, not unlike Afghanistan, we just keep getting our ass kicked. We fund other countries' militaries to fight the drug trade, then let anyone walk across the border with a bindle up their butt. It's more counterproductive than a broom that shoots glitter. In 2019, over 70,000 people died from overdoses in the US. That's 70,000 more people than have read Kilmeade's new book. Make a joke about drug death. But during the pandemic, that number exploded, probably because we were all trapped inside watching CNN. But what is causing this wave of death? Don't blame prescription opioids, because as we cut down on that, the death rates skyrocket. No, today overdoses are driven by fentanyl. And like the coronavirus and cheap patio furniture, it's made in China. It comes through our southern border and it's mixed into other street drugs to kick it up a notch. It's basically hamburger helper for junkies. Tell us, Lara Logan.
When the pandemic hit, we realized, oh, well, without China, we got no antibiotics.
Right.
We got no medical equipment. So what did they do to change that? Nothing. Right? And when China got all that capability, that's how they found the analogs for fentanyl, which they then introduced as a street drug, made a deal with the Mexican cartels, and now they've got, how many Americans are dying every year, and we hear nothing about it. I mean, go to San Francisco, nobody cares that you got people standing on the street, pissing on themselves and, and defecating everywhere, and unable to function. And what do they say? Well, let's reduce the mandatory minimum sentencing for fentanyl. That's what the Biden administration Justice Department is working on right now.
So, during 12 months of the pandemic, nearly 100,000 Americans have died from ODs. That's a 30% jump. Experts blame it on the stay-at-home orders. I don't buy it, because when it comes to this stuff, the government is like our president's underpants, full of crap. I feel bad just saying that. But especially when it comes to health, it's true. Remember the nutrition pyramid? It was everywhere. Classrooms, waiting rooms, the shed where I keep the au pair. But also cereal boxes. Yeah, imagine that. A box of carbs says you should stuff your face with carbs. Sadly, my chart had a typo, and I was eating 30 pounds of crabs a month. But a cereal company telling you to eat more carbs. It's like the diamond industry, telling you how many months' salary you should spend on an engagement ring. We thought we were following the science, but we should have been following the money. Cookie Crisp had parents thinking kids started their day right by eating a bowl of cookies. It's amazing. It's like those stories about fake doctors tricking women into physical checkups. That's what this is. And yes, I stopped doing it years ago. They repossessed my van. But this chart was dead wrong and deadly. You had processed carbs in huge quantities, turning healthy kids into mini Brian Stelters. Right now, our adult obesity rate is 42%, up from 34% just 10 years earlier. The only thing rising faster is our blood sugar. So what's that got to do with drugs? Well, the same people who lied about food are lying about drugs. Right now, when the government or media reports ODs, just like the crime stats, they never get specific. They never tell the whole truth. It's about illegal fentanyl, not prescription drugs. And it's not overdoses, it's poisonings. People buy drugs with fentanyl in it, and they die, including people that you know, from Tom Petty to Michael K. Williams to athletes and actors. But the people you heard of dying of opiate overdoses, it's actually fentanyl poisoning. Not prescriptions, but a poison used to kill people deliberately. It's the biggest story you aren't hearing because all you hear is the word overdoses. And the worst part of this, patients who rely on legal opioids for cancer, pain, and other diseases can't get them because we've conflated safe drugs with fentanyl. But that's pretending two totally different things are the same, like CNN and news. Long way for a joke. When it's really actually terrorism, and it drives legal users to illegal stuff, and they die because they can't control the dosage. Or like hot dogs, they just don't know what's in it. Imagine you could only buy cigarettes illegally, but one cigarette had 1,000 times the nicotine. You would die, or at least sound like Cat. But instead, you can go to any market and buy a carton. In San Francisco, they even let you take it. But the dosage is controlled. Meanwhile, stats show addiction is actually rare among prescription opioids, and overdoses are nearly impossible to find. I bet you didn't know that, because we're operating on the lie of all drugs bad and punish the law-abiding. Here's an analogy you'll understand. What's the biggest complaint by gun owners? No, it's not that the gun jams when watching The View. It's that the laws punish the law-abiding while doing nothing about illegal guns fueling street violence. It's the same argument here. We punish the law-abiding and let the lawless kill. We'll even provide clean needles so it's the spiked drugs they die from. But sadly, we target the decent person who administers drugs safely in a safe environment, like a doctor's office or Cat's apartment. But it's time we stop this death. It's also time to let people seek the relief they choose, and if they don't hurt anyone, then it's nobody's business. Everyone on this planet has a right to relief, whether it's a martini, a joint, or an opiate. Because frankly, I'm tired of buying clean urine from Steve Ducey. But if you need any, DM me. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She's on your Fox News screens more than Relief Factor. Host of the Faulkner Focus and outnumbered co-host, Harris Faulkner. He loves his wardrobe for the same reason he loves soccer. Lots of boring ties. Fox and Friends co-host and author of the new book, The President and the Freedom Fighter, Brian Kilmeade. He's an Air Force veteran and an expert on flying high. Columbia University psychology professor, Dr. Carl Hart. And she's 90 pounds soaking wet, probably from all those spilled drinks. Fox News contributor, Kat Tipp.
Your audience is incredible.
Yeah, I've never heard him this loud.
Well,
Wow. That's amazing.
We, in the spirit of the show, we drug them. By the way, a lot of people don't know this about the original Fox and Friends, but the segment Cooking with Friends, right?
Right.
It was your idea, but it was about meth.
Right. Right. That's a very good trivia note. And that was only if you interviewed our staff. There's the only way you'd know that.
Yes, okay. What, did I convince you in any shape or form? with my monologue? Did you? Because I assume that you probably are anti-legalization.
I have not done it as heavily researched as your teleprompter did, but I will. But I will say, and like the professor. But I will say, fundamentally, I don't think it's good to legalize terrible behavior. But the counter argument would be, oh well, you have alcohol. Alcohol's out there. Isn't alcohol a drug? Mm-hmm. My sense is the big story in that story was what China's doing.
I tried to sell it to him that way. I know that you'd only be into it if I blamed China.
Who are you talking to? You have a panel here, and you look past the panel. Who are you talking to?
I was talking to me.
Talking to the plant?
Sometimes I talk to me.
Oh, okay, fine. You were looking at the monitor.
Yeah, his picture is in the monitor.
So
but none of the rest of us
What
are in
did
the
you
monitor.
realize?
Well, what I realized, look at his book. Look at his book. White man on the top, black man on the bottom.
What?
Racist. You are a racist. All right, I got to move on. I'm tired of
No.
Thank you. Applaud.
No.
Wow.
All right. Professor
No,
Hart.
you're not going to amend that statement? I mean, you act like we agree with that. That is not true. They work together.
Whatever you do in your private time is up to you. I want to get the professor in because how would you respond? Like he brought up the alcohol thing, and there's this theory that you can only have one bad thing be legal, right? But what's your take on that?
I don't know. Alcohol is bad. Is that a bad thing?
Well, I'm saying the counter to my argument, fundamentally, I don't think legalizing heroin and all these drugs, the drugs that are legal now, are going to be productive. And the counter argument to my statement is, well, alcohol, isn't that technically a drug? Isn't that addictive? I get it. But to me, if you legalize all these drugs, tell me a place where it works.
I don't think we're saying legalize. We're talking about legally regulating. Mm-hmm. So that means that adults have access to these activities, whether it's drugs, whether it's driving an automobile, whether it's owning a gun. Adults have access to these activities.
And how would that affect the people sleeping on the street?
What do you mean?
Do you think we'll get more of them or less?
The people sleeping on the streets, most of those people are not there because of drugs. I know that's the popular thing for people to say.
Well,
most of those people are there because they're having financial problems, because of mental health issues, but it's easy to blame drugs. That's what we do in this country. We blame drugs for all of our sort of ills, but that's not what's going on.
You've been living in the city, though, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so the city over the last 6 months, mentally ill are populating most of what we're seeing right now.
And on this panel.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I want to get Harris.
Excluding Harris.
Yeah, this ain't Fox and Friends. Harris,
You're
go ahead.
looking at two different categories of drugs, though, because what the doctor is talking about legalizing, like you would alcohol or something like that, you're talking about regulating the age of people who can use a certain drug that's already considered a controlled substance. But people are dying from fentanyl because they're buying it off the street.
Yes.
What they think is Xanax. What they think.
Right.
And some of them are doing it because those substances are hard to get right now because they're not regulated.
Yeah.
And where China comes into play, and where, because I don't need the teleprompter, sweetie. It's low-hanging fruit. Where China comes into play is right at the nexus of where Mexico is feasting like scorpions at our border off those people who want to try to get into here illegally and using them as coyotes.
But that would, a
mules.
lot of that problem would be solved if drugs were legalized here. There would be no demand for the supply that the cartels have.
And perhaps
it would
controlling
be
your
safer
border
for
situation.
all adults that wanted to do these things. I don't think that you can say you live in a free country if you don't own your own body. And they're putting fentanyl not just in Xanax, they're putting it in cocaine.
They're putting it everywhere.
Nobody who's trying to do cocaine wants to fall asleep. That's why they're doing cocaine. So
May I say,
You know a lot about this, Kat.
one thing about fentanyl?
Yeah.
What it
It's
feels
important
like.
for us to know that fentanyl has been a legal drug in the United States since the 1960s, and it's an important drug in terms of pain reliever. It's prescribed to treat moderate to severe pain, and it's an excellent drug as long as people understand that they have fentanyl. The problem is when people don't understand that they have fentanyl, they may take too much of it and overdose because
So they'll
it's
take
a lot more
Xanax,
potent.
not knowing that fentanyl, which as you say is as powerful as morphine, and gives you the same kind of high That's why they use it to lace it, to make those
It's
drugs
more
cheaper
potent
to
than
move on the
morphine.
street,
It's a lot more potent than morphine. But the
Crazy.
problem, the thing is, nobody really wants to mix their cocaine. Even people who are selling cocaine, they don't want to mix their cocaine with fentanyl. These things happen accidentally. But there are easy fixes to this, just like they do in Europe. We can have these things called drug checking. Drug checking facility allows people to submit small samples of their drugs, and then they get a chemical printout, and then if fentanyl is in it, then everyone knows that fentanyl is in it, and you don't take it, or you scale back how much you take. We have the technology in this country to make these things available. We haven't made them available to the public because we don't care.
Yeah, you know, I have an alternative. I just have because I'm fairly well off. I just have a drug tester.
Oh, yeah.
So I just give it to them, and if they fall down, I don't take it.
Is that like a food tester?
Yes, exactly. All right, we got to move on.